Welcome to the Action Network podcast presented by DraftKings. I am your host, Evan Abrams, and I'm joined by Brandon Anderson for our NFL recap show. We will discuss everything we saw today in NFL Week 9 and look ahead briefly to Monday night's game. Plus, we'll get Brandon's hot read for next week. Before we get started, I will give you my big stat of the day. Now, I tweeted this out. Usually it's like a gambling stat, and there is a really good stat we'll talk about later, but I think this one kind of trumps everything from the day, which is in today's loss against the Bills, Patrick Mahomes completed fewer than 50% of his passes, 44%, for the first time in his career, 142 games, okay? Mahomes' last game completing fewer than 50% of his passes came as a backup quarterback against TCU in 2014 when the Texas Tech team gave up 82 that game, 82 points. Absolutely ridiculous. But nonetheless, and we'll talk about this in a second, but Brandon, I just want to bring you in like right now. So when you talk about this game, Bills, Chiefs, now we're going to talk about it in a second after Sunday Night Football, but off the bat, what do you quickly make of what happened today?
Yeah, I think the Bills did the thing that everyone wanted them to. They ran the ball. They beat them the way that people have been saying for years, this is how you're supposed to beat the Chiefs. And the Bills actually stuck to it. And frankly, for all the Bills and Chiefs games we've had that have been awesome, this was kind of a very ordinary feeling football game. Like, it's never ordinary. It's Allen and Mahomes. But on a day where we had, like, we're going to get to all sorts of other games with crazy finishes and huge upsets and everything else, this was kind of like a normal football game. And Allen was awesome. Mahomes was not good enough. And, the Bills continue to cook. We'll get to this stat later on. 5 straight regular season wins against the Chiefs. Of course, they have lost all 4 postseason games against the Chiefs in that span. So let's see if they could carry this over for next time. It's kind of like the other stuff with the Bills. Great job, but will it matter when it counts? And we got another one today, I feel like.
Yeah, this is from Scott Kazmar on Twitter. He's a good follow, but most consecutive games in NFL history completing 50% of passes or more. Mahomes had 141 before today, second most. Wow. The record, Ben Roethlisberger. 191. And that was to end his career, which is an absolutely ridiculous stat. But nonetheless, I think we should keep rolling here. So we can go to Sunday Night Football where Seattle wins the game 38-14. I honestly don't even – the line closed 2.5 for Seattle, and 47.5 game ends up going over. The story up to – the injury was a bunch of different things, but to me, Jaden Daniels' injury now at the end of the game becomes probably the topic of conversation because it's the only thing that really changes for me. Seattle absolutely dominant on the road, 10 straight wins. I believe only 2 head coaches started 11-1 on the road, him and McVay. Nice list for Mike McDonald. But either way, Seattle continues to do their road thing. Jaden Daniels being done and Washington being 3-6. Probably the story because Marcus Mariota ain't what he was, and even if he was what he was, I don't think he's helping them get back from 3-6. But other than that, first half from Darnold, 16 of 16, absolutely ridiculous. 4 passing touchdowns in the first half. This game completely over before it started, but we could talk all you want about Seattle. I think the story is now Washington.
Yeah, I mean, the first half story was Seattle just putting on an absolute show. Just like literally Sam Darnold couldn't miss anything. The biggest shock in the first half was that Seattle didn't bother using a timeout with 13 seconds left. And it's like, but Darnold could get one more throw in. They'll probably get a touchdown out of it. Like, they just were unstoppable. Shouts to Torrey Horton. And now our guys, Stuckey and Raybon and some of the guys, they were hyping him big time coming into the year. And so he was huge. He had 2 touchdowns. I don't know if Cooper Kupp's going to get his job back as a second receiver. It might be Torrey Horton's job now. JSN, monster like he has been all season. Seattle's been a team that we've been on like show after show backing them. This was our look ahead. This was our hot read. And this was over. Like halfway through the second quarter, Seattle scored like 100 points in a 3-minute span. And that was that. And then we were like, all right, well, great. Let's start the show early. Let's get this moving. And we're kind of getting the gears going behind the scenes. And right about then, you sent into the Slack, looks like we just got a new topic. And that was right after the Jaden Daniels injury, which, I mean, right off the bat, you know this is going to be beaten to the ground this week, but it has to be. Why are you playing Jaden Daniels? It's a 31-point game with 7.5 minutes left. I'll be honest, I didn't tweet it, so it's easy to call 50 or hindsight 2020. But like at halftime, I was like, I don't know, man. Why is Jane Daniels playing? Like, you got no shot in this game. And like, remember Washington got that touchdown right before the half, and it kind of looked like, all right, well, maybe they got something going. I wonder if that might have cost them the season. Like, if they just go in skunked at the half, maybe they just pulled him out early. We didn't know if he'd even be ready for this game. You got Detroit next week, which we talked about on our new look ahead. We're going to have some nice CLV on that -3, I'm going to guess. But get ready for the season ahead. I wonder if getting that score early kind of kept them out there too long. But I don't know. You can't make excuses for why is Daniels out late in the game. Detroit next has to mean likely 3-7. And this is not the AFC. I think it's over for Washington. There are not a lot of paths here. We saw how bad their pass defense was. Marshawn Lattimore, their only good corner, goes out injured. I think Tori Amos got injured as well in this game. It's very bad. It's not a lot of good for Washington in this game. The only good, perhaps, was a bet that you were sweating coming in just as we hit the show from the Discord. You want to tell our folks about that one?
Yeah, I honestly don't even remember who it was, and I have to, thank them for it. But someone found a nice little middle of Bill Merritt, Jaworski Merritt, going over 11.5 rush attempts, and also under 12.5 rush attempts, both at plus money, and he ended up closing at 12 rush attempts exactly. When you do these things, especially when you're getting plus money on both sides, you're doing it for fun. You can put a lot of money on both sides if you can get it down, and then if something like tonight happens, it's absolutely magic, which was a really fun. He had like 7 and then 8, and then we came on, he had 10, and then he ends at 12 with Chris Rodriguez getting a ton of carries at the end. But nonetheless, I honestly, the only other two things I had notes here, Luke McCaffrey's injury in this game with Jaden Daniels, just Washington over and over and over again. You mentioned some of the other ones, but seemed to be just depleted at this point. And the McCaffrey injury early in the game was like, all right, well, we already don't have McLaurin, so it got late early for them. The only other one, and I'm going to tweet this out in a little bit, but the NFC West seems to be absolutely rolling right now. They are 21-11 against the spread as a division this year. All 4 teams above 500 against the spread. They are 17-7 ATS outside of the NFC West. Obviously, Arizona playing Dallas on Monday Night Football tomorrow night. We will see if that continues, but kind of interesting nonetheless. But you ready for KC Buffalo?
Yeah, I think Seattle has a real claim as the best team in the league right now. And if it's not them, it might be a team in their division. And that is the earliest little spoiler alert I've given on a hot rate to come like an hour from now. But stay tuned. We might be coming back to this division multiple times here.
Yeah, I believe Seattle has the Rams and Niners coming up. So we should see all of those good things coming up. All right. Buffalo wins 28-21. Beats Kansas City, covers 2.5-point home underdogs. Total goes under 53. I mean, I feel like the best storyline here to try to learn something going forward with both teams would be the fact that out of nowhere, something we hadn't seen recently, Mahomes and the Chiefs offense just seemed to get stymied in this one. They looked what I called uncomfortable most of the game. I mean, he goes 15 of 34, which we mentioned off the top. Pretty unprecedented for his career, but no passing touchdowns, an interception, 57 passer rating. And honestly, the other thing I looked at, just 1 carry, which is kind of unlike him in these types of games, usually trying to get yardage, trying to find first down, scrambling a little bit. But there was just so much pressure in his face the entire game. I felt like it really changed everything about what their plan was and what they wanted to do from drive to drive. On the other side, Josh Allen goes 23 of 26. I don't even need to tell you more than that. Threw a touchdown, 2 rushing, doesn't matter. 23 of 26. He was as efficient could be. But what do you take out of this game going forward, other than kind of Casey's offense just struggled and that, did them in?
Yeah, I had the stat about Mahomes only 1 rush as well. Neither of these quarterbacks ran much today. So I thought that was by design on Buffalo's part both ways. I thought that they limited Mahomes, kept him in the pocket, got under huge pressure. He was pressured on 53% of his dropbacks today. And here's a crazy stat. You gave how he was under 50% for the game. Well, it's because of the pressure on those pressure plays. Mahomes was 3 of 16 completing passes. 3 of 16. for 61 yards and the interception. I think the offensive line has to be a story here. And they're going to the bye, so maybe it's not a huge story. Josh Simmons, the rookie. We talked about him before the season. We had their 500-1 rookie of the year bet. He's not played for a while now. They need him back. It's pretty clear there. Trey Smith is playing, but clearly hurt. Maybe the couple of weeks off here help him a little bit. The line was just not getting the job done. We saw like Joey Bosa comes free on one play, so free at the quarterback that he just like stopped and like turned back like, oh, I guess maybe this was a run. I missed out. Like, oh no, he just was wide open. And eventually Mahomes ended up completing a big 4th down conversion. But yeah, the Chiefs offense, not good here. Much maligned Bills defense that actually had a good game plan and brought the pressure. And I thought Bills offensively, like, of course, Josh Allen's going to be the story. He's the MVP favorite. 3 incompletions all game, near perfection. RIP to the Josh Allen rushing props for me. That's been my favorite. Thankfully, he did find the end zone twice, so we got those to kind of make up for it. But fewest rushing attempts, fewest rushing yards of his career in the against the Chiefs, regular or postseason. But it's because they didn't need to. They didn't need him to do that. James Cook, 27 carries, 114 yards. Not like crazy. That's barely over 4 yards a carry. But here's what's happening. And when we saw, besides James Cook, who dominated for the Bills? It's the tight ends. Dalton Kincaid was huge. We saw Dawson Knox get a big pass. Saw Jackson Hayes get a big pass. Buffalo tight ends caught 8 passes for 149 and a touchdown. I thought that was a clear game plan where we kind of saw the same thing with the Seattle game we just watched. And they talked about on the broadcast, if you can't stop the run game, then teams are going to load up and go heavy in the run game, more tight ends on the field. Now you match heavy, and now you can't stop the pass game, and teams are passing out of a run format. So the Bills this game ran 52% of the time. That's way up from 38% in their games against Mahomes, the rest of their games in this series. And first down, they ran 71% of the time, way up from 42% against the Chiefs. So that's a huge tendency breaker because the Chiefs couldn't stop the run, but then they also passed out of those sets. And we saw early down passing when they did pass for Buffalo, 73% success rate on 22 early down passes, 0.62 EPA per play, which is just like MVP obliterating you because Kansas City couldn't stop the run. And then when they loaded up to stop the run, trying to make up for it, then the Bills just passed right over top of them. And I felt like Kansas City just couldn't find answers from that.
Yeah, to me, it was 3rd down and the pressure you mentioned, which was the difference. Buffalo 7 of 12, Kansas City 3 of 13. And you look at their averages for this season, both about 44%. That was to me one of the big differences, just overall from drive to drive. 7 of 12, really efficient. 3 of 13, just very unlike Kansas City. And we talked about this on the Best Bets podcast on Thursday. But that number, when I said Mahomes, 5 touchdowns, 5 interceptions in the previous 6 games under pressure against Buffalo, completely what came to happen today. I mean, add another one to it. Last 7 games, now 5 touchdowns, 6 picks. It is the way Buffalo has gotten to him. And in the playoffs, like we said, turnovers just seemed to be there, and then they found magic in the end. Today, there was just not enough magic. I mean, that was too much of a deficit. Kansas City made their run, but Buffalo did the job in the end. But the thing, I mean, I tracked this bet. We both lost this bet. Buffalo didn't add on in the 4th quarter. Yeah. Like, there wasn't an extra touchdown. There wasn't more offense. They at the end of the game, it just kind of fell in their lap, and Kansas City didn't have enough. But to me, it wasn't like I came away with this game being like, oh my God, Buffalo absolutely dominated. Like, I think Kansas City made some mistakes, and it still makes me feel like there is the opportunity for the inevitable if they were to meet in the playoffs again. I will say this. I don't know if you looked. Do you see what Kansas City – so right now Kansas City out of the playoff picture at the current moment. Do you see their odds to make the playoffs at the moment?
I have not seen it.
What do you think? Do you want to take a guess or do you want me to tell you?
So I had to note also that they're out of the playoffs. They start today, and Baltimore coming on strong. So there's a team charging from behind. Although admittedly they're behind, they're out right now for Jacksonville and the Chargers. Which
but they lost to Jacksonville. They did lose to Jacksonville.
True. Yeah. And they will play. They lost the Chargers, so they lost to both of those teams. I mean, I don't think books want our money on Chiefs to miss the playoffs. I'm going to still say Chiefs make playoffs minus 250.
It's 650.
Woo!
Plus
Wow.
440 on the no. I'm sure you could find a
Wow.
better price, but that is about what it is right now. I'm telling you, I mean, they are super uber talented on offense. I think today was a blip on the radar based off of all the weapons they have. But Chargers playing well, Denver winning games. Maybe you and I believe they shouldn't. Kind of interesting.
By the way, Kansas City
yeah.
into the bye week, then at Denver coming out of the bye. That suddenly is almost a must-win game for this team, given everything that we're saying. They got both Denver games left. They are now 2 full games back in the division. They've lost division games. They've lost division game. I forget if they've lost more than one. I think just the one. But they got to go to Denver, where it's never easy. And Denver, for all the slander that we give them, is playing in coin flip sort of games. Well, the Chiefs can't afford coin flips right now. They need to just go get wins. And look, for all the things that we're saying, the Chiefs got the ball back with 22 seconds left in this game against the Bills. We all watched thinking oh my gosh, is Mahomes going to do the thing again? We still thought it was right there, even though they kind of got mostly dominated in this game. The Bills had 100 extra yards and were in control all the way. And still, every Buffalo fan is grateful. You mentioned both teams did not score in the fourth quarter for only the second time out of 10. That's because the Bills wound the clock down, ran like scaredy cats into the line 4 times in a row, and then kicked a field goal that thudded off the upright. Otherwise, we would have cashed that one anyways. They were just please, the least seconds possible against Patrick Mahomes. We've done this dance before. And then they still immediately complete a pass down the field and had another couple of shots. If there was one less running play for the Bills, one more timeout for the Chiefs, and they get 30 seconds more, I think we're watching overtime. This is what we watch in this rivalry, despite everything else. So I don't know. We just watched the game, but if the playoffs started tomorrow and the Chiefs were in it and playing the Bills, who's taking the Bills? We've watched this matchup over and over. So how do you do those two parts? We're probably going to have to come back and make that decision sometime in January.
The game most likely won't be in Kansas City, though. So you'll at least have that
true.
in your back pocket to consider. MVP odds last time I looked. Josh Allen plus 150. Drake May 4-1. Patrick Mahomes plus 450. Matthew Stafford 5-1. Could have changed, but that's what I looked at about Sunday Night Football. So Pat moved back a little bit. Josh now getting closer to even odds after the performance today. But Drake May, what a story. All right, let's keep rolling here. So Bears, Bengals. Bears win the game 47-42. Bears end up covering -3 on the road. Total goes over 51.5. For today, I feel like it's probably worth, as we go game to game, to kind of just get some injuries out of the way. Cole Kmet leaves this game with a concussion, so one thing to look forward there. But the story to me was just Joe Flacco and kind of what he's bringing to Cincinnati's offense from week to week. We could talk about their overs. We could talk about all different types of things, their defense and all this, whatever. But 470 yards, 4 touchdowns, 10 yards per attempt. This game just had a perfect combination of chaos. 89 points. Each team had 7+ points in every quarter. And then you look at Cincinnati. Kickoff return for a touchdown. Blocked field goal. Onside kick recovery. 500 yards of offense. 2 wide receivers with 100+ yards. 15 points scored in less than a minute. 42 in the game, and they lost. I mean, that is the epitome of what Cincinnati has brought to the table from the defensive side in all of these shootouts, is they can't find the stop at the end of any of these games. It is absolutely goddamn ridiculous. What did you see today, and what can you take forward?
Yeah, honestly, this is more of a what did we see today than what are we taking away game. But we just saw so much today that how can this not be up near the top of our rundown? So the Bengals returned the opening kickoff for a touchdown. So right off the bat, we're already getting crazy out of the gates. The Bears have 4 different players attempt a pass. Caleb Williams catches 2 passes today per stat head, the first basically non-slash weapon, whatever sort of quarterback in history to do that. I did find out, by the way, just as a side note, looking for this, there's a game in December 2006 where Josh McCown, Josh McCown caught 3 passes in a game. He was the backup for the Lions, and they were short on receivers, so he apparently volunteered to be the 3rd receiver for the game, and he caught 3 on the day. He didn't even attempt to pass all year. Good for you, Josh McCown. Caleb Williams, maybe that's the next in line for him. I'm mad over here. We give out DeAndre Swift props. We're hitting the overs. We're hitting the escalator. Swift goes out, so we can get on it. And Kyle Monangai comes in, puts up 176 yards on the Bengals, because that's what everyone's doing on the Bengals. And then the game just got ridiculous late. So fast forward to 34-27. The Bengals miss a field goal. The Bears are trying to widen the lead. DJ Moore on an end around goes 16 yards, stretches the ball out. Like we know, don't stretch the ball at the goal line. You're protecting a lead. And he fumbles it out the back of the end zone. So the Bengals call a challenge to try to get the ball off the fumble. And during the Bengals challenge, they ruled that the Bears scored a touchdown. So the Bengals challenged themselves out of a possible turnover into a Bears touchdown. And then Flacco throws what we all think is a pick 6, right? There's under 3 minutes left. The scoreboard literally says 47-27. They rule the guys down by contact. Then we get all the Bengals touchdowns late. Touchdown, go for 2. We're seeing the analytics when you see why you go for 2, because it looked like the Bengals would then get the next touchdown, get the 1 point and lead by 1. That looked like they would have won that way. They did not, but they recovered the onside, like you said. It did not even go 10 yards, but it hits the Chicago player. They get the touchdown, and all the Bears. Like I'm just like, as a Vikings fan, Vikings win today. Packers lose, Lions lose, and then like the hometown Bears are going to collapse and do the Washington Hail Mary scene all over again. Like I'm ready for just glory out here. But then the Bears get the ball back. The Bengals bangle again, and they throw to Colston Loveland deep. You said Cole Kmet's hurt. Loveland, the rookie tight end. The 2 safeties for Cincinnati are like both too deep. They literally crash into each other and fall over, and Loveland just rolls right through all the way to the end zone. Honestly, I kind of thought that the Bengals might score again after that too somehow. Just a ridiculous game. Flacco, you gave the numbers. 470 yards is a career high for him at age 40 by almost 100 yards. His previous career high was 389. So at age 40, he goes out and tops that by, 81 yards. Good for Joe. 1,000 yards combined of offense. 576 for Ben Johnson's Bears. Both teams averaged 7.6 yards a play. Just crazy numbers and stats from this game. I had the same Cincinnati stat you had. A couple other Bengals stats. They had 10 plays this game of 20 or more yards. 10! Most of any team all season. And they lost the game. Their defense had the worst EPA per drive allowed in any game by any defense all season. And that's just the continued story of the Bengals. And by the way, 5 wins for the Bears is tied at the top of the division. Bears Island back on again? I don't know.
To me, this is the stat, and I look at the standings right now, but the 49ers, the Vikings, and the Bengals are all undefeated in division. And to me, they're all like 3rd or 4th in their own divisions in terms of record, but undefeated in their own division. Right now, some of this stuff is a little wonky, and I think it's going to, at least for one of those teams, come back to bite some of those division leaders, because you've got some weird things going on. That's number one when you look at some of these games week to week. This was my note, number 2, and I'm just curious, like watching the Bears, we watch almost all the games here. So when you're watching the Bears specifically, the thing that drives me absolutely bonkers, and I'm sure anybody who's from Chicago watches the Bears all the time knows exactly what I'm talking about, but Caleb Williams is like need to scramble, run around chasing his tail in the pocket, where like he feels like he like moves quickly with his feet and scampers and like feels like he's getting scared and doesn't allow anything to like start in the offense. It's so frustrating to watch, because you see it happening and he's like running around from his blockers, and I feel like he's making it so much harder on his team to like have like a methodical offense. Like I don't want him to be Jared Goff, But God, he has to do that better, because watching them week to week, it is so frustrating to have to, like, every single play is him rolling left or right and throwing to one of his wide receivers as he's like diving out of bounds.
Yeah, I
So
mean, look,
that's
that
just, yeah. What do you think
happened.
about that?
That happened on literally the three penultimate plays that he ran before the touchdown. Like first, second, third down is Caleb Williams running around like a chicken with the head cut off, like running right,
Yeah,
like spinning around, back left into the pass rush. I'm screaming at the TV, throw the ball, throw it away. Like I'm
correct.
getting Carson Wentz flashbacks over here, which is just you can't hold the ball that long. You got to have some version of an internal clock. He took off on one of them and scrambled and at least picked up like decent yardage. But even that, not a good play because you're out of time. You got to get the ball down the field. They got completely bailed out by awful Bengals safeties running into each other. I mean, maybe just being that far deep, you're probably at least getting the pass to Loveland, even a completion, giving you a shot at a field goal there. But look, the Bears missed field goals earlier in the game. They had a field goal where I was like, oh, that must have got blocked. No, he just kicked it sideways and like 15 yards short of the end zone. I don't know if I've seen the kick that bad this season, especially on a day where we broke an NFL kick record in another game coming up. But the Caleb Williams thing is insane. And there's a lot of dialogue about Caleb Williams. Of course, he's the number one pick from last year, so we got to talk about it. If you take out the Cowboys game, and that counts kind of, but it's the Cowboys. A lot of quarterbacks have looked good against the Cowboys. You take that game out, the numbers are not great. And the film and the eye test has not been great. And it's early. It's too early to panic, and they are winning. Chicago, you have your coach. You have a system. You're feeling good. I'm not feeling great about Cubs. I'm not panicking. I saw folks this week comparing him to, well, maybe he'll be the next Josh Allen. Okay, first of all, nobody in history probably has outlier upside that Josh Allen hit after it looked like he was just completely dead. But also, Caleb Williams is not as bad as Josh Allen was early in his career either. Like, it's not terrible right now. Like you said, could you just be Jared Goff? Like, can you just stand and throw the ball? Romo Dunze cut no passes today. Romo Dunze cut nothing against
Insane.
the Bengals in a game with 1,000 yards of offense. How do you not get your lead receiver the ball once all game? That's got to be somewhat on the quarterback, and Caleb is just running around.
Yeah, I think that's enough of the Bears at the moment. I think the other thing for me on this game would be the Bengals. Over 5-0 in Bengals home games this year. Last 16 Bengals home games, I believe they're 14-2 to the over. Flacco's 4-0 to the over there. Like, I don't know what they're going to do week to week in terms of setting those lines, but everything we saw, and at least the last 3 weeks, they've scored 113 points. Their opponents have scored 117 points. Like, that is absolutely ridiculous. Ridiculous. Here's the fun stat, which I'll give you. And the stat really, to me, means nothing, especially after what Cincinnati went today. But it is a factual statement, which is teams after playing the Jets are now 0-8 against the spread this season. 18-38 over the last 4 years. So not just a this year thing. 18-38 after playing the Jets. Only thing I'll say is maybe they don't get you prepared for your next opponent, but absolutely ridiculous and just a fun stat going forward.
Yeah, nothing to add to it.
All right, so before we move on, do not forget to sign up for Action Pro for real-time pick alerts from experts like Brandon Anderson, Chris Raybon, Stuckey, our entire Action Network team. Plus, you can access our pro projections powered by Sean Kerner and our predictive analytics team. Just go to actionnetwork.com/pro. Get $20 off the annual price with the promo code POD20, POD20. Don't miss out on the best bets at the best prices. Visit actionnetwork.com/pro. Use the promo code POD20, POD20 to get $20 off a year of Action Pro. All right, so we're going to do something a little bit different today to kind of go over some of these games, since Brandon decided to kind of put these in some sections, which I think makes sense. So we're going to start off with 3 big upsets that kind of happened today, and I'll put upset in parentheses, but mostly big upsets here. So we'll start off with an actual upset, which was Minnesota beats Detroit 27-24. Upset the Lions as 9.5-point underdogs. Total goes over 47.5. I mean, it even got up to 9.5 this morning. This was not 9.5 like a day ago. So there was some love for the Lions heading into today. In terms of injuries from this one, some big ones were Aaron Jones, who left with a shoulder, Taylor Decker, and Terrion Arnold leave with a knee and a back injury, which for the Lions who lose the game, the Vikings who are now, I believe, 2-0 in the division, those are some bad injuries for Detroit, with Washington on deck, which is now a bit of a luckier situation without Jaden. But then you got Philly and the Giants. So Giants not too hard, but that Philly game on deck. So we will see there. In terms of how both of these teams look today, I just feel like the spread was unnecessarily inflated in this one. Like, I went back to September of 2022. That was the last time the spread in this matchup was 4 or more. It just felt high unnecessarily. And we talked about it this morning, actually, on Playbook Live with Grant, and we talked about it on air as well. He liked Minnesota. It just felt like Carson Wentz, and you know Carson Wentz better than anybody, like, isn't that much of a downgrade. And understandably, Goff and Detroit had dominated, right? 8-0 against the spread against the Vikings. But this Vikings team is complete. Like, they do a really good job. They've just been missing the quarterback. And granted, his third career start, but JJ looked pretty good. Like, what do you take out of this game?
Yeah, McCarthy's stats in this game were literally identical from his week 1 game. 14 of 25, both games, 143 yards, both games, 2 touchdowns, interception, and then a rushing touchdown, both games. And both games go 27-24, win in the division. So eerily similar start between these two. I saw somehow JJ McCarthy is now the third quarterback in NFL history that is a first-round quarterback and won 2 of his first 3 starts on the road in the division. The other 2 guys, Dan Marino and Patrick Mahomes. So I guess McCarthy's in decent company now. I will say, look, I'm always going to be a little bit biased here as a Vikings fan, for or against. It's easy to come out and like bury to bury everyone that buried McCarthy after 2 games. Like, there was talk this week of a lot of talk about the Vikings messed up the Sam Darnold decision. The Vikings should be trading for a quarterback, trade for Anthony Richardson, trade for Kirk Cousins. I think the Vikings are going to wait and see what they do with McCarthy. But I also don't think that this result in particular should be like, oh, okay, so McCarthy is good. The Vikings are great. This is a real thing again. Like, this was Detroit. Really, this was Detroit's offense not quite being good enough, but a little bit fluky in ways. Like, they're usually really good on third down. They were 5 of 17 on third down in this game. They're usually really good in the red zone. They're 1 of 3 in the red zone. Amon-Ra St. Brown left hurt for a little bit. I think he's fine. Penei Sewell left hurt, the stud, like probably the best lineman in football. I think he's fine. Mahogany, the left guard, he's out. I don't think he is fine. So that's another injury to add to the list. But I think the Minnesota had a good defensive plan. Flores, credit to him, 5 sacks. Minnesota's pressure finally got home. Getting Van Ginkel back out there, I think, has helped them a lot. They also stopped the run, which I wouldn't have expected in this game. Lions ran 20 times, 65 yards, only 3.3 yards a carry. And, if you can stop the Lions run and kind of get them off script a little bit, that's the way that you get to Detroit. Get Goff under pressure, get him off script, and that's what Flores was able to do here. So I don't know that I'm going to draw too many huge conclusions here. This rematch comes on Christmas on Netflix, so something for all of us to look forward to. Next, Lions-Vikings. I will say Detroit now 5-3. Who have the Lions really beat? Right? Like, we came into the season, I was very low on Detroit coming in, all about the coach brain drain. And then they beat up on Chicago week 2, but the Bears were not very good yet. They beat up on Baltimore week 3, but then we saw the Ravens look really bad for a stretch with everyone hurt. They beat the Bucs a couple weeks ago. That was pretty good, but the Bucs are missing a lot of dudes too. Like, you can only play the teams in front of you, but 5-3 is not that great of a record. And the Lions, we kind of keep crowning them as this favorite, but you can't really have a game like this. If you look, the score says they lose by 3, but they were really not even in the game for the most part. It was a pretty comfortable win for Minnesota. They do basically play the entire NFC East in the next month. So maybe that's a get right spot. You mentioned the Washington luck that they kind of get now. I'm not out on Detroit, but I do think in this division, suddenly everyone is right there. Like, 2 weeks from now, the whole division order could be upside down from what it had been, from what we thought. Detroit and Green Bay out ahead, Minnesota clearly in last. Suddenly now it's all right there. They're all at 4 and 5 wins. Vikings go Ravens, Bears, Packers, Seahawks next. So I don't think they're exactly out of the woods here. Like, they got work to do, but this was a good place to start the work for sure.
Yeah, I think the biggest thing from Detroit's point of view is you can't win the game when both Sonic and Knuckles are held to a negative EPA per play, both running and in the receiving game. Like, if they're both not going to do anything and not add anything, they're just not going to find a way to win. And I guess the positive, and you kind of just mentioned this, they lost by 3. They were in the game most of the time, and really nothing went right. Like you said, the 5 sacks, there was also 10 penalties. And again, Montgomery and Gibbs doing virtually very little, and Montgomery fumbling. And like, there was a lot that went wrong in this game. And when you look at the biggest play of the game from EPA perspective, the blocked field goal on Bates, it's 24-17 Minnesota. Minnesota goes up 10 after that, after the block. So to me, completely changes everything that's going on. One note going forward, though, again, Minnesota plays Baltimore, Chicago, and Green Bay. Minnesota 7-1 to the over in their 8 games this year. So points, whether it's from Flores' side on the defense or, again, just facing these offenses, seems to be just showing up in Minnesota, Detroit. All right, let's keep rolling. Pittsburgh beats the Colts 27-20. The best thing we can say is this. It took 8 games and the best unexpected offensive start in NFL history before we got what we thought we would get out of Daniel Jones in like game 1. So at this point, it's probably one of the more impressive starts. And we're all just going to sit here and say, hey, look, told you so. But come on. I mean, at this point, his start and what the Colts have done have been absolutely ridiculous. Today, they just ran into a buzzsaw, and that buzzsaw just looked like a Pittsburgh defense that was angry as hell. And them being angry as hell led to a pass rush that caused Daniel Jones to turn over the ball 5 times. I believe he had 3 turnovers entering today all season. So to me, I still think a bit of a blip on the radar for Indy. Like, I still believe in what they're doing. I still like the motion in their offense and the play action and, you know, how well Taylor's played and how well that's helped Daniel Jones. But they've got a game in Germany coming up now against the Falcons, and then their bye week. And then they've got Kansas City, and then the Texans, which at that point they'll get CJ Stroud back and probably be healthy. So that is a 3-game trip over 4 weeks that will really tell us what Indy's start was.
Yeah, we're going to see both of these teams in island games next week. We will start our Sunday with the Colts in Berlin. We will end our Sunday with the Steelers against the Chargers on Sunday night. So we're going to be watching both of these teams, and I don't know necessarily. Do we take away, oh, yeah, okay, rah-rah. Rah-rah's back again. We talked about it. I wasn't on it this time. You got to be willing to miss every now and then. And there it was. It showed up again. So is this just the Tomlin voodoo, or did Pittsburgh's defense figure some things out, or did the Colts offense get exposed a little bit? I think we have to kind of take all those into possibility. Colts offensive line really got dominated, and they had an argument as maybe the best line in the league so far. Pittsburgh's defensive front was supposed to be the best in the league, but hasn't been at all September or October. And they're suddenly getting home and getting pressure and taking sacks. 8 sacks the last 2 games for Daniel Jones, 6 the first 6 games combined. So 4 per game the last 2, including that's a Tennessee game in there. His pressure to sack rate, 7.5% the first 6 games, 30% the last 2. So he's getting pressured because the line is allowing it, but he's taking the pressure. And that's 2 different things, that he's getting under pressure now, but he's also making mistakes. 5 sacks, 2 fumbles, 3 interceptions. That's 10 big mistake plays by your quarterback. And by the way, Daniel Jones threw 50 times in this game. What are you doing? That is not the game plan to have Daniel Jones throwing 50 times. It is Halloween weekend still. I felt like Daniel Jones maybe turned back into a pumpkin in this game. And I don't think it was just this game. The way that we are seeing the numbers from the last game as well, there is something there that's trending the wrong direction, certainly. Now, look, the Colts finished with 368 yards to 225 for Pittsburgh. So it's the 6 turnovers. That's the entire thing. But on the one hand, My buddy CJ, who's a Steelers fan, texted me 6 turnovers and a 7-point win. Doesn't necessarily mean you're good. It might actually mean that you're bad, which I think is possibly true. And on the other hand, though, Pittsburgh's getting these chances and the Colts are giving it to them. And, you know, we talked about this game before. I was on Tyler Warren, and I made a whole deal about Tyler Warren touchdown. Make sure you bet Tyler, not Jalen. It was a mortal lock, minus infinity, that Jalen Warren was going to score a touchdown. He, of course, had 2 touchdowns this game. Tyler didn't do crap. But I think just you mentioned, like, I said something like, I don't even know what the path is for rah-rah. How would Pittsburgh win this game? And you're like, well, I mean, Daniel Jones. And I was like, oh, right. The guy that we've just decided is kind of good now. And Daniel Jones was old Daniel Jones in this game. We keep waiting. I keep waiting, I guess I will say, for the Colts to get exposed. I don't think this was that. I think this is just a really bad Daniel Jones game. Well, a couple of the mistakes are like tip passes and whatnot as well. But we'll see. You mentioned the schedule coming up for Pittsburgh. 5-3, big win that they needed here. They go Chargers, Bengals, Bears next. Those are pretty coin flippy games to me, the way that the Steelers are playing. And they still have after that Bills, Ravens, Lions, Ravens again. So Pittsburgh is not out of the woods either. I think possibly this kind of steal of a win, this might be our shot now to buy Baltimore division or to sell Pittsburgh playoffs. I think this kind of free win that they stumbled into, this maybe with the rough schedule coming and all those early banked wins, this might have given us a shot to get those Pittsburgh futures we've been wanting.
I will say this, Chargers, Bengals, Bears seems like it's going to be a bit of an easy sled for Aaron. So he should be able to put points on the board against all 3 of those teams. I think Pittsburgh's defense will be the question mark to if they go 2-1 or how that 3-game set kind of goes. I mean, today, Aaron, 32 pass attempts in a clean pocket, came out in 2.12 seconds on average. Lightning quick. I mean, that's part of probably the issue that Indy had in terms of pressure today. I believe Rodgers 3 pass attempts under pressure in total in this game. It's going to be impossible for defenses to keep up if he does that. And against Cincinnati with maybe no Hendrickson, against the Bears, which we saw most of what happened today. And I think the Chargers can be beat in that type of situation. So it should be interesting going forward how that works for the Steelers. Anything else here?
Yeah, just to know, we'll get to the Chargers in a bit, but Chargers losing Joe Alt right before facing all this Pittsburgh defensive front, not a great timing for that one. So we're going to see a lot of that next Sunday night.
All right, let's go to the upset of the day. Carolina, the Sad Panthers, 16-13, cover as 12.5-point dogs on close. Total goes under 43.5. I mean, there is a number of different levels to this one, but going forward, the Tucker Kraft injury, which to his knee, done for the season, is probably the biggest issue to Green Bay. Going into the weekend as a 12.5-point favorite, basically being able to tell everyone, like, guys, every game that Green Bay's played up to this point, forget it. I promise you, we're great. Well, you lose as a 12.5-point favorite, and then you lose probably your best offensive target. Man, this was a bleak week to have any investment in Green Bay going forward, because I think all you have now are questions. Now, Matthew Golden also leaves this game with a shoulder injury. I don't think it's anywhere near what Kraft is. I think he should be all right week to week. The Kraft injury is just ridiculous. What he does for the offense and how he probably makes it easier all around for Love, but all the pass catchers and the run game, very difficult. Now, the note that I had going into today that kind of continued was the fact that Green Bay has just been starting super slow. 6 points, 7 points, and 6 points in their last 3 weeks. They are 2-6 to their first half team total over this year. So they just haven't been able to find points early in games, which has put pressure on them later in games. And I think that's what's happening. Now, over the last few weeks, they've been able to find points in the second half. Today, that wasn't the case. They get into the red zone 5 times in this game. They go 1 for 5. They were 70% in the red zone entering today. So I don't know. What do you make from this game And then what do you think of the Kraft injury?
Yeah, I mean, the Kraft injury, I think, is huge. I thought he was pretty clearly a top 3 tight end so far this season, with a case for maybe the best tight end on the season. I think
Sure.
he is, other than Jordan Love, obviously, he is their most important offensive player. He is their best pass catcher. He's the guy schematically that opens things up for them. So I think that is a huge loss. For me, I've had Packers in my top tier of contenders all season. They go at least like a half step out of that now. So they're not out of it. But this is a really significant loss for Green Bay, especially for an offense that has kind of felt stuck in the mud for much of the season. Even though the metrics are telling us otherwise, we keep talking about like the dissonance there that I don't really see it, but I guess the numbers tell me the offense is pretty good. We've talked about the Packers a lot. They play so slow, and this was my pick for upset coming into the week. Panthers plus 750. That what if the teams played slow? What if both teams just ran the ball? It was really windy, got a lot of running, and the Packers just keep letting teams hang around. They have not won a game by more than 10 yet this season. In this game, they're 13-point favorites and then score 13. Like, you can't do that. They didn't punt this game, and they scored 13 points against the Panthers, who were like one of the worst defenses in league history a year ago. The Packers had more than 100 yards more than Carolina, but you mentioned 1 of 5 in the red zone. They got 2 turnovers. They had the late turnover on downs, which is one of the most depressing plays ever. Jordan Love scrambles for like a year and then lofts it into the end zone for what should have been a pick 6 for Carolina, but he dropped it. Terrible play for everyone. Green Bay missed a field goal in there. Like, you got to really try to put up the numbers they did and not punt and score 13 points. And look, I've been very high on LaFleur, but this now in their last 8 games as more than a touchdown favorite, LaFleur is 3-5 straight up as more than a touchdown favorite. If you bet the underdog money lines like we did with the Panthers in this one, in those 8 games, you are 208% ROI getting back your money. That's Cleveland and Carolina now this year. Don't forget, that's both New York teams last year. This was a thing the Packers did last year, and it keeps on happening. I saw a crazy stat from CBS Sports Research. The Panthers have not been a favorite yet in any game this season, but are 5-4. They're the second team ever since 1970 to have a winning record through 9 games despite being an underdog every single game, which is crazy because they're a winning record, and we're still not even going to really consider them as a playoff team in the NFC because there's so many other options. Green Bay really should be 8-0, you could argue. They've got the 2 terrible losses to Carolina and to Cleveland they should have won, and they're the tie to Dallas that they should have won. But they're not 8-0. They're 5-2-1. They still play the Eagles next Monday. We've talked about that big game. They still play the Ravens. And by the way, they still play 5 of their 6 division games in a division that's looking like everyone's racing to the finish line right now. You asked earlier about Chiefs playoff odds. I've got a note to take a look at Packers playoff odds. I do not think that they are a lock in any stretch right now, and they should be. They should be in that inner circle of contenders, and they just cannot close teams out the way that they ought to.
Yes, it's a calendar turn to 2025. Packers have been favorites by 7 points or more 5 times. They're now 0-5 against the spread. This was tied for the second biggest upset from a point spread standpoint for the Packers since 1970. They lost as a 13.5-point favorite in 2018 to the Cardinals. And also from a money line perspective, Packers were minus 1,000. Biggest upset on the money line since Jags-Bills in 2021. That was a game that finished 9-6. The other one that you alluded to, which I think is, I mean, it's probably a LaFleur stat, but it's not great for Love either. So Jordan Love now 2-2 straight up as a double-digit favorite. Aaron Rodgers 31-4 in his career as a double-digit favorite. That Carolina stat that I had as well, and I know I saw CBS put it out. It's worth repeating. So 5-4 straight up, been a dog in all 9 games. Only the second team since the merger, 2001 Browns, underdog all 9 games and be over 500 at this point. What they've done has been absolutely remarkable, especially winning on the road when everyone had seen how good they were at home. This win is pretty incredible in multitude of different ways. And when you look at Bryce, 102 passing yards, 11 completions, a minus 11.5 completion percentage over expected. Listen, Green Bay gave this game to Carolina. The stats amazing, but Carolina did not deserve to win this game at all. The top 3 plays in terms of EPA in this game, all in the first half. Green Bay just handed them this game in the second half. Ridiculous.
Yeah, I mean, Rico Dowdle ran well in this game, but like we didn't really say much about Panthers player in this game. We said a lot more about just the Packers not doing enough. So just a game that you, in a week where the Lions give a game away and the Packers had a chance to really be in great position in the division. Don't forget they beat the Lions in week 1, so they could have really made up ground here. Instead, there's something like a half game out of last place, basically.
All right, let's keep going here. Next section, 3 wild endings. So we just did 3 upsets. Now let's do the wild endings. And we're going to start with a game that we were just going to give you the final score. I promise you, we were just going to give you the final score. But based off how this went, we had to give you more. So Jacksonville wins the game 30-29 in overtime as a 2.5-point favorite on the close. So the Raiders get the cover. Total goes over 43.5. I only have a few things here, so I will give it to you after. But Cam Little, on his own 39-yard line, hits a 68-yard field goal. Obviously, him standing on his own 39 when he kicked it, but a ridiculous picture nonetheless. I mean, from Jacksonville's standpoint, Brian Thomas gets hurt during this game. Obviously, Travis Hunter now out 4 weeks. It just felt like they were looking for different options on offense at different times in this game. I think the run game looked all right, but on the other side, holy Brock Bowers. I mean, what the Raiders offense looks like week to week with him out there versus with him not. I mean, just this season, they're averaging 21.2 points per game with Bowers in the lineup and 8.7 in the 3 games without him. So 13 targets, 12 receptions, 127 yards, and 3 touchdowns. But what do you even make from Jacksonville and the Raiders?
Yeah, we didn't take the Bowers escalator high enough, apparently. We got the yards.
Jeez.
We got the 90 for 6-1. We got 8 receptions at 5-1, 10 receptions, 13-1. I needed more floors. Like, I needed to take the escalator even higher. I don't know what happened here. Didn't even get any of the touchdown plays. So welcome back to Brock for sure. Yeah, crazy game because, look, this is in the afternoon slate. We're all watching Chiefs-Bills. Let's be honest. Like, I even turned off Red Zone. I put that second screen and was like, just give me all Chiefs-Bills. Give me the whole commentary. I want every play in this one. And then like Rams-Saints, that is one of our skips today. You'll get to that one in a minute. But it felt like both these games are just like, all right, that's it. There's only 2 other games. Nothing's happening in them. We'll just watch Mahomes and Allen showdown. And suddenly, so this game, I had the under on it at an under 45.5. So we got a little value on it. Into the fourth quarter, it's 9-6 Raiders. Nothing is happening in this game, including not a lot of Brock Bowers until late. Then into the fourth quarter, touchdown, field goal, sends us to overtime, where then we make NFL history. 2 touchdowns in overtime for what I think is the first time ever, because we just got this rule. Normally, a touchdown ends it. Now, for the first time, touchdown and extra point does not end it. The Raiders get the ball back with like barely over 3 minutes. They go down, they get the touchdown, they go for 2 in overtime for the win because there's like 20 seconds left. So either you can kick the extra point and tie, but you're the Raiders. Like, well, what do you want to tie for? What is a tie proving to anybody? Good on them going for the win. They didn't get it. They get the pass knocked down at the line. But as far as I can tell from StatHead at Pro Football Reference, this is our first ever in history 1-point game in overtime. It literally wasn't possible until recently. We've had 3 2-point games in overtime. I don't remember any of those, but imagine your team getting the overtime and losing on a safety like that. That's like a season ender. I don't know how you get over that. This is our first ever NFL overtime with 2 touchdowns. It's our first day with 2 overtime touchdowns since December 2022. Obviously, those are in 2 different games, but just crazy finish that like ended up, I think, finishing after the Chiefs-Bills game. Like, I think we actually got to finish watching that one and then flip over and we're like, oh, wait, there's still a game on? Cool. What's happening over here? Craziness. So I don't know. I'm not sure. The Raiders clearly don't matter right now. Jacksonville's 5-3. They're pretty fraudy 5-3 team, but in the AFC, that I don't know, like they suddenly scream to me that like with a soft schedule coming up still, they got Houston next, they got the Chargers next. Those are both teams still trying to fight for playoff positioning. I don't know if I really want Jacksonville around the playoffs. Like, do I really want this team accidentally going 10-7? And then like, as the Chiefs or Ravens make their huge push at the end of the season, Jacksonville knocks them out for the 7th seed. I don't know if I need that in my life.
At the moment, Jacksonville does not have another primetime game the rest of the year. You will see them at 1 o'clock. You will see them at 4 o'clock. And honestly, even if they sneak into the playoffs, which maybe they'll catch the Colts, maybe they won't. But at this point, they could get in a number of different ways, but you won't see them in primetime, and they might just roll under the radar. Travis Hunter coming back, like at some point, there's a lot of season left here. So, I don't believe the Brian Thomas injury is anything long-term. So, I think they should have enough weapons to continue doing what they're doing. And again, I bet them the week against the Chiefs. Like, I like what they put together. I'm just not the biggest fan of them as a favorite. We will see how that goes. The other note I have here, the Raiders, man, Pete Carroll's streak of winning 7 or more games is 17 consecutive seasons. I don't know if they're going to get there this year. The Raiders are just Brock Bowers week to week, and that offense, maybe they score enough points where they squeak it out, but 7 to me is a little bit much. So I see that streak coming to an end. But anything else with this one?
Yeah, like if Jacksonville does make the playoffs, like minus 1,000, that they're the opening playoff game that you're like, oh, the playoffs are on. It's the 4th quarter. I didn't even know we started already. That's the game Jacksonville goes to play in.
But unfortunately, they can't face the Texans because then you've got 3 AFC South teams, and the Texans are always in that slot. Actually, it's always Texans-Bengals every year. TJ Yates, I believe, starting that game. All right, Falcons, Patriots. So Patriots win this game 24-23. Atlanta covers the 5.5. Total goes over 45.5. There was a lot of injuries in this game, which I think are worth discussing off the top here. But Kayshon Boutte with a hamstring, Christian Ellis with a hip, Christian Gonzalez left with a head injury, and Bergeron and Lindstrom on the offensive line for Atlanta were hurt as well. So both sides having issues in this one. But it's the weird game where I feel kind of good about both teams. Like, Drake May continued to be absolutely ridiculous. His performance was unbelievable again, even with an interception. He's got 200-plus passing yards and 100-plus passer rating now in 8 straight games. This year, 17 touchdowns, 4 picks, a 9 yards per attempt with a 74% completion percentage. Week to week, ridiculous. And here's the stat. I was going through Drake May's game log, and this is, to me, when I say, okay, how has he performed first 22 starts? Well, in 21 of those 22 starts, he has had an equal number of touchdown passes to interceptions or better. So only in 1 start in his career has he had more interceptions than touchdown passes. To me, that's exactly what Drake May is week to week, and it's the reason why with a coach like Vrabel and the defense, like they're going to be in every single game, and even when the opposing quarterback has probably his best game of his NFL career, the Patriots still find a way to win. And that's the way I have to look at this one.
Yeah, Drake London was a monster in this game. So I don't even know if I'm going to give Penix as much credit as just like, credit for throwing the ball toward Drake London, letting him do the rest.
Fair.
That's good enough sometimes. 9 catches, 118 yards, 3 touchdowns. Atlanta could not run the ball. Running backs had 14 carries for 53 yards. The Patriots' run defense has been great week after week. Their pass defense, not so much, and it's Drake London stats, but they shut it down there. I'm going to disagree a little bit on Drake May. I did not think this was a very MVP game for him. He took 6 sacks. He also had a really bad strip sack right before the half that they basically gave. It was basically like a strip 7 for the other team because Atlanta scored right after that, and that almost cost them the game because it came down to it. Atlanta scores a touchdown with the final couple of minutes left, and then of course because it's the Falcons, they missed the extra point, and that's the final margin. Somehow Atlanta, I think, punted from about the 50 with like 2 minutes left. Look, the afternoon late slate was just Chiefs and Bills. The early slate, everything was happening. And so I'm like trying to watch what's happening in this game. It couldn't even make it into the quad box on my YouTube TV second screen. And I'm paying attention, like red zone, like what happened with this game? Atlanta just punted away. They got fourth down at like the 50, and it was 4th and 20, admittedly. But like you can't punt with 2 minutes left. You're behind, and they just didn't get the ball back again after that. So I don't understand what Raheem Morris is doing with that. I think the Falcons 3-5, I think is not really totally fair to them. They're a better team than that. But this is not the first game they've lost by kicking. Week 1, they had that like kind of gimme field goal at the end of the game against the Bucs, and they blew it. And this is like 2 games now they've given away on awful special teams. By DVOA, the Falcons, Bucs, and Saints in the division, those are the 3 worst special teams in the entire country. So I don't understand what's happening in the division. But in this particular game, I thought the real story was late downs. 3rd down, Patriots convert 8 of 12. The Falcons were 1 of 10. By success rate, 67 to 23% success. That's your difference in a 1-point game. And I think people are maybe going to be a little too far ahead of their skis on the Patriots. I don't think this is quite an elite team yet. I think the Falcons, to me, are a hard team to bet on because you never know what you're going to get quarter to quarter, game to game. I think the Falcons could beat the Colts next Sunday. Like if they show up and play the way they can, they've got the weapons to be able to do that. We've seen their defense have really good games. And then we see them get shut out by the Panthers and like no show in other games. So to me, the Patriots, I think, are kind of a similar version of that has had a little bit stronger closes to games and gotten the results against an easier schedule. But I don't think the Falcons are as bad as 3-5. I'm not sure the Patriots are as good as 7-2 either at this point. I think they're kind of just both around the middle, and Drake is obviously playing better than Penix right now, but I probably will be looking for spots to fade the Patriots a little bit just because I think the hype is getting a little bit ahead of where they're at right now.
When you talk about May's performance today, like overall compared to everything else, you are mostly right in everything he did today. Like, has it been up to the par of what he's done previous to this point? No. But I think the fact that they won the game is kind of masked by everything. Like his MVP odds, like everything you're going to see from like a market standpoint looks a lot different if they kick the extra point and Atlanta maybe, gets a field goal and they win in overtime or something changes in that respect. So I do think the 1-point win kind of puts lipstick on a pig a little bit here. The other thing is this, their schedule going forward, New England, in terms of strength of schedule and just win percentage, easiest in the NFL. Now, they face Baltimore. They face a few teams that maybe their record looks a little bit different in a number of ways. So maybe not so much the easiest in the NFL, but the Patriots week to week, if they keep squeaking out, they're going to end up with a ton of wins, and it's going to be very difficult for Buffalo to find their way over them if New England keeps finding wins. Tampa Bay, Jets, Baltimore, next 3 games, but in Tampa, in Baltimore. So a little bit different there. Trying to think if I have anything else here. Not really. I mean, to me, this game just kind of about what Atlanta was able to do through Drake London. And to me, on New England side of the ball, again, Travion Henderson, I have no idea what to do there. And without Stevenson, I just felt like they were kind of struggling there. They even gave the other kid more carries. So obviously, Vrabel's going through something.
Yeah, I gave him the goal line look as well. So tough look for fantasy football there. Trevion's just not been able to show up for them. And the Patriots are kind of like washing through the roster a little bit. Still trading a couple guys away. NFL trade deadline is Tuesday. So we'll see what teams, we got some interesting results today. Who's going to make a big move with all the injuries we keep bringing up? Who's going to need to cover for an injury? We'll see. The Patriots have been making some moves to sort of clear out some of the guys that have been talented, but just not fitting into this new regime. So we'll see if they have more to do there too.
All right, let's keep going here. Denver, Houston. Denver beats the Texans 18-15, covers plus 1.5 on the road. Total goes under 40.5. I asked the first question, was this game even on Red Zone today? I would also say that about Jacksonville and the Raiders early on, but that game turned into an absolute overtime shootout. So this game, to me, the non-show on Red Zone of the day. But aside, again, like the Washington game, the story should have been something else, but it ends up being C.J. Stroud's concussion at the beginning of the second quarter. Davis Mills, rest of the game. It's 3-0 Texans at the time of the injury. And Mills, the rest of the game, he was just a game manager. 17 of 30, 137, no touchdowns, no picks, just 2 sacks. Like, he kept Houston around. The issue was 2.8 yards per rush for the Texans. They had 28 rushes in this game. None went for 9+ yards. That is very difficult to do, but they did it, and it was part of the reason why they couldn't find their way downfield. Denver loses the turnover battle 2-0. Denver goes 0 for 1 in the red zone. Houston goes 0 for 3. This game ends up being just an absolute mess that Bo Nix finds his way late in the game once again.
Yeah, this was ugly. This was a really ugly game. 2 missed field goals to start the game. And then coming out of halftime, we go punt, field goal, 4 straight 3-and-outs. Then we get the 1 touchdown in the second half. And then 7 straight punt drives before the Broncos finally get the field goal to win at the end. And it just like, to me, like the Breaking Bad, they can't keep getting away with this. That's how I feel about Denver at this point, but they just keep coming up with late wins. They are now, for the season, through 3 quarters, -1 in point differential. That is 19th in the NFL. In the fourth quarter, they're +53, first in the league. That's from Benjamin Solak. So this is guts? This is a team that knows how to close. This is Bo Nix making plays when it matters. I think that's a bunch of malarkey. Like that screams to me a team that is as mediocre as they look for 3 quarters, that's kind of getting some lucky plays and making just the right plays late. But every year we see a couple teams like that seem like they just have the magic touch right up until they don't anymore. And then they get exposed for what they've looked like most of the time. Like, to me, I tweeted this out, but this feels like the Tim Tebow Denver era all over again, with just all these like horseshoe up your butt wins that are coming through late. Bo Nix under 50% of his passes completed in this game. And the one killer play, like it is often with Nix, is with his legs. We mentioned with Atlanta, they lost the same way they lost earlier this year with the missed kick. To me, this was the Houston Monday night game all over again. Remember Houston Bucks? They lose by 1. They've got it late. Sure. Baker's under pressure. Baker escapes and has the big run, and that sets up the Tampa for the win. Here we are in this game. Bo Nix has the big run late. That's the only thing they really did after 7 straight punts to finally get a field goal out of it and go 18-15. A win is a win. I think Houston at 3-5, this could be the season. Like, they can't keep losing games this way. They have 5 losses all by 1 score. But it doesn't really matter how much points they're by if you're going to keep losing games. This was a shot for them. If the Colts lose, this is a chance to get within shouting distance in the division, and they didn't take advantage. So we saw favorites lose today, but we saw some of these teams trying to hang around also lose and not really take an opportunity. Easy under for Texans again. That was an easy hit for us. I'm a little upset. I wanted the mine shaft, talked myself out of it, and this would have been a pretty easy mine shaft as well, even indoors. Texans 32% success rate on the game. Awful, but better than the Broncos, which was 29%. Like, to me, we know both these teams are supposed to be really good defense. Okay, great. Texans defense, great. Played really well, didn't get the win. Broncos defense played Davis Mills. So let's not take too much away from that. Davis Mills in for CJ Stroud is look, Mills started, I know, for a while, but he's not even like an average backup. He should barely even be in the league at this point, in my opinion. So not great for Houston. We'll see with CJ in concussion protocol what it looks like going forward. But Texans unders, that's what it looks like to me. And there's your other little hint of where we're heading with our other hot read in a couple of minutes here.
Yeah, the only 2 marks I have left in this game is it feels like every week, and they even covered the first half this week with, a quarter of Davis Mills, but Houston 19-8 first half ATS last 2 seasons. Listen to this. They're 52-28 first half ATS since 2021. I mean, they just continue to do whatever they want in the first half. I don't know if that's a D'Amico thing, but I guess at some point it's rolled over I think multiple coaches. So believe maybe it's a CJ Stroud thing, but interesting nonetheless. The second point here is the spot for the Broncos next game, which they are at home on Thursday Night Football at home against the Raiders. Now the Raiders are coming off of overtime against the Jaguars, having to go to Denver on Thursday Night Football on a short week, which is an absolute terrible spot. I looked it up. So teams on short rest off overtime when the opponent is not. 26-47 straight up, 23-47-3 against the spread last 20 years. Failing to cover by 4.1 points per game when they're on the road, 10-25 against the spread. So pretty terrible numbers. Now that number is 9.5, and I know we talk about this every week. We don't love laying points, especially 9.5 with the Broncos, who can't seem to find too much offense frequently, but that is a terrible spot for the Raiders off of a bad loss. Ready to keep rolling?
Yeah, big favorites on Thursday nights tend to perform pretty well just because there's just not enough time for the underdog to get into the game. So I'm not sure if I'll be betting that one, but I'm not sure I'll be watching either. I think I'll make some other plans for Thursday night.
Yeah, I don't know if it's a bet for me. That's more just information. That feels like a very, very large line that probably has that a bit baked in. All right, let's get to the last game here before we get to just some scores. Chargers-Titans. Chargers win this game 27-20. The Titans cover at home, plus 10 on the close, over 44.5. Tennessee finally covers at home, breaking an 11-game home ATS losing streak, the longest in NFL history entering this matchup. But Tennessee finds a way. They were down late. It was going to be a push or depending on your close, but they find some points at the end of the game. Listen, the biggest thing going forward for the Chargers, which you mentioned earlier and changes almost everything about what they do on offense, is Joe Alt taking off on a cart. Do you know, did you hear much? Like, you can kind of take it from here. Like, what did you hear about Alt? I didn't hear any other information.
So, yeah, it looked like another high ankle sprain, which is the injury he had earlier in the season, but it sounds like likely to need surgery. So I don't know if he'll play for a while, or at least even again this season potentially. Rashawn Slater, the other tackle, already out for the season.
Yeah.
His replacement, Bobby Hart, he got injured today. Mekhi Becton is still injured. This offensive line is just shambles right now. Like, this was already 2-star tackles and not a lot else. And they brought in Becton. Now they're missing all 3 of those guys. And it's just like all the leftovers they've been trying desperately to replace over the years. So cluster injuries at the line or in the secondary, really bad. And the Chargers, again, are playing the Steelers next week after we just saw, TJ Watt and all those guys up front really get after it today. Chargers 6-3, but they go Steelers and then Jaguars, 2 teams that are very much in the exact same playoff positioning as the Chargers. So I think definitely if the Chargers were not 6-3, if they were like 4-5 or even 5-4, Joe Alt is a big enough injury. If he's out for the year or most of the year, that's like a season ender for this sort of team.
Yeah,
like,
you're right.
To me, I'm thinking of them somewhat like I am starting to think about the 49ers in the NFC, where like you are not what your record is. There is a much worse version of you that's happening here. In this game, though, that was not the case. So I want to note about Joe Alt, but also I know we keep looking like, how do you catch the falling knife on the Titans? When do we finally have to bet the Titans? If you bet the Chargers in this game to cover, or if you bet the under in this game, you got screwed. The Chargers destroyed the Titans. 58-34% success rate is just an absolute beatdown. The Titans got a pick 6 and a punt return touchdown, and that's the only reason they scored 20. That's their touchdowns in the game. And then they got 2 field goals because they're just trying to cover late in the game, I guess. You would see the stats on this game, and you'd bet the Chargers 100 times out of 10. So if you were on Chargers, if you were on the under, that was the right side. Such is betting. This is why it's a tough sport to bet on. But to me, takeaway from that, I am still looking at any chance I can to fade the Titans. Like, can they fire the new interim coach? Like, this is getting worse somehow. I'm only disappointed because the Titans are off next week, so we're going to have to wait a week before we get to bet against them again.
Yeah, this stat I'll give you right now, or at least 1 or 2 stats on Tennessee. It's ridiculous. So I was looking up some Cam Ward stuff. He has 4 touchdowns and 5 picks when trailing this year. So when the defense is allowing him to kind of do more because maybe they're backing up or whatever, he still not doing well. 57% completion percentage and a 71 passer rating when trailing this year. Only quarterbacks worse are Tua and Stroud, and I think that says something about Stroud. Also, today was his first career game without an interception and fewer than 5 sacks. Today was the first time he's ever done that in his NFL career so far this year. So no interception and fewer than 5 sacks. And he had a 13.7 QBR in the game today. And that's out of 100, FYI. So that is what we've got. The other one here, he has 5 touchdown passes on the season in 295 pass attempts through 9 starts. That is tied for the fewest passing touchdowns with that many pass attempts in 9 starts ever. I kept double checking this, but we have not found a quarterback with fewer than 5 passing touchdowns with that many attempts. So what Cam Warder's doing out there is ridiculous from week to week. And I think it has way more to do with everything around him in Tennessee. The other one, and this one I believe comes from CBS, but most consecutive games with fewer touchdowns than opponent. The Titans have gone 14 straight games with fewer touchdowns than their opponent. The only longer streaks, at least recently, were the Bucs in the 70s with 18 straight. Other than that, you got to go back to the 40s. So Titans go 14 straight games, not scoring more touchdowns than their opponent. Feels almost made up, but right now they've got a bye, and then, we will see how it goes. I'm looking at their schedule now, versus Houston, versus Seattle, versus Jacksonville. 3 really difficult defenses coming out of the bye, even though they're all at home. So we will see there.
You do not want to be compared to the 70s Buccaneers. I'll tell you that
Correct.
much. You don't need to know a lot about NFL history, but that is not a team you ever want to be in a sentence with. So it has gone as bad as it can for the Titans. We got to get to Monday night and hot read shortly, but get us through these last couple games.
All right, San Francisco wins 34-24, covers 2.5 on the road, total over 47.5. The Michael Williams injury is really, really big here. The other one, this quote from Kyle Shanahan after the game, saying that Brock Purdy was not that close to being active today. Shanahan on his toe injury, it's something that probably won't fully go away all year, regardless of when he comes back. That is a really, really bad quote. The one thing on San Francisco for next week, remember, 1-14 against the spread after an outright win since Christmas of 2023. So have to see if San Francisco is able to put together 2 in a row. And then last game here, the Rams win 34-10 over the Saints. They cover the 14-point spread on close. Total goes under 44.5 by the hook. Puka leaves, but could have come back, so we believe he's good. The thing that's interesting, Cardi has missed 8 kicks so far for the Rams this year, PAT and field goal, most in the NFL. Rams are a great team, but that feels like one flaw that might come back to bite them. What's next for the Rams is probably the most interesting, which is at San Francisco, at home against Seattle the next 2 weeks. So we will see a lot about the Rams in that span. Also, completely different than any other year if you've been following some of the data that I put together, but Rams 7-1 second half ATS, best in the NFL. And then the stat that's crazy about this game, the Saints, 16 minutes time of possession in this game, 4.4 plays per drive. That's not yards. That is plays per drive in the game. So not much else to be said there. All right, Monday Night Football time. Give you a few little nuggets here, and then I'll toss it to Brandon. So Cardinals and Cowboys. What's the line right now? You pull it up. Cowboys -3.
It's Cowboys 3.5, depending on your book.
And 53.5. The stat from Dak is just dominated night games. 29-15-1 straight up. 26-18 against the spread. 2-0 already ATS this season. And here's the best one. Since the start of 2020, Dak and the Cowboys, a perfect 13-0 straight up as a favorite at night, beating their opponents by 18.3 points per game, which fits against the Cardinals here. The Cardinals is crazy. They've lost 5 straight games by 4 points or less, which has only been done by 2 other teams in NFL history. And of course, Cowboys home overs, 3-0, home overs 15-6 last 3 seasons for Dallas. But what do you do here? Arizona, Dallas.
Yeah, one other crazy stat in this game is that the Cardinals have this weird juju against the Cowboys. They have won 7 of 8 games against Dallas, all as an underdog since 2008.
Oh, wow.
So it's just this weird, I don't even know it's a rivalry because I don't know if Dallas thinks that it's like one of those where the little brother thinks they're rivals, except in this case, the little brother keeps winning for the last 2 decades. Arizona's covering by 12 points a game in that stretch. So obviously, like, that's across all sorts of years and teams and eras and whatever, but just a weird one. Kyler 9-0 in Jerry World, but that stat doesn't matter anymore because he's not playing here. I don't know if he, like,
soft bench.
Yeah, right. Is what's happening here? Is he benched? Is what's happening? Jacoby Brissett is playing, and I think that weirdly is buying us a little value here. I think Kyler. Look, I'm not the biggest Kyler fan, but this line only really moved like half a point, moving to Jacoby Brissett. And I know it's easy to slander Kyler, but this is the spot you wanted to back Kyler Murray. He's 66% ATS as an underdog. He's undefeated in Jerry World. This, to me, I wanted Dallas in this game. But I was like, man, I don't know. Kyler is so dangerous in the spot. With Jacoby Brissett, I know you're going to limit the mistakes, but you kill the ceiling. There's no more ceiling. And against the Cowboys, you want ceiling. They don't have a defense. All you want is just who can go out and get us some points right now. Dallas is going to score, so you know you need to match them. Jacoby Brissett, last 10 starts across the last 3 seasons, hasn't topped 27 points in a game. He's averaging 17.5 points a game with his team's 6 straight losses. He is a competent backup, and that's it. Arizona on the season has only scored up to 27 points. They have not topped that this season. Well, 28 points for the Cowboys gets the job done, and Dallas is going to score that at home most of the time. They're averaging about 31 a game, and at home, they've scored 40, 40, and 44. That's it. That's the whole season of home games, 41 a game versus 24 a game on the road. There's something working about this offense in Dallas. I think it's a good setup for Dallas. Hunter Rallis, defensive coordinator for the Cardinals. Fun name. All the nerds like to talk about all the gimmicks and the 3 safeties and everything. It's super fun until you face like a real quarterback in a real offense, and it doesn't always go well against better talent. And Dak and CD and Pickens is better talent. And get ready to hear the name Clayton Adams, I think, a lot on Monday night. Clayton Adams is the Cowboys offensive coordinator, but was, up until this year, the run coordinator for the Cardinals. Arizona had run so well in recent years. Clayton Adams leaves. Arizona, bottom 5 in rushing DVOA. Dallas with a sham offensive line. Everyone's hurt. Running backs nobody wanted into the season. Top 10 run game. Over and over, Dallas is pounding the run. I think we're going to hear a lot about Clayton Adams. I like the stat you gave with the night game for Dak. We know he's good as a favorite. We know he's good against sub 500 teams. I like Dallas a lot here. Dallas -3. It's not going to get below that, so don't wait around. But I'll say this. I don't mind 3.5 if it gets there and you haven't played yet. I might get closer to Dallas -5. So I think they get the win. I think they get the cover. If you want a prop in the game, look, there's going to be points. So I think Marvin Harrison Jr. to score a touchdown, +160 I'm seeing out there. I know with Brissett, it's been Trey McBride. Harrison's only had 2 catches each game, but Dallas has allowed 15 touchdowns to receivers already this season, 9 touchdowns to wide receiver 1. And look, Kyler's slander aside, I do trust Brissett to get the ball to Harrison on the routes that he runs a little bit better. And look, if you like the Harrison angle, you can play it with Dallas -3 together. That's not negative correlation. I mean, the Cowboys are going to score plenty anyway. The Cardinals are going to score some points in the game. May as well be Harrison. You can play those 2 together at +450 and get kind of the negative correlation parlay there. So Cowboys -3, and I do like Harrison to find the end zone +160.
Yeah, I don't mind Dallas. The way I was going to play this game was the angle of McBride. Again, if you've been watching Arizona games, the chemistry between him and Brissett just seems to be much better. 6 for 60 is basically -110 at a few books, so I think that's completely doable. The other bet I like is -130 to have a catch on their first drive. I think he's just going to be someone they're going to look for. Now, if you look into the numbers and you say, oh, well, what do tight ends do against Dallas? It's mediocre. They're worse against wide receivers, but I think this is more about Brissett and what Arizona's offense, especially without Connor, without Benson, like the run game just hasn't been a part of what they've done, and it hasn't been effective. So I think McBride makes sense, especially, come on, he was on a bye over National Tight Ends Day. They're going to make a big deal of it. He's going to be good in this game, so I like that angle. The other 2 bets, I think this is a good setup in Dallas for a field goal of 33-plus yards from both teams. I trust Ryland. I like indoors. I think Brissett's going to have some trouble getting in the red zone. I think both with a total of 54. Not sure how I don't like that bet in a new. I think that's a decent price. I see minus 105 on DraftKings. And the last bet I was looking for, and I guess I would be curious your opinion on this. I wanted a big Dak completion early in this game. He has been, I believe it's 27 plus yards in 8 of 9 of his last first quarters. So he's come out really hot. And the line, the only way I could see playing this is the line is 58.5 first quarter pass yards. I was looking for like longest pass first half, longest pass early in the game, because I believe the number is like 34 or 35 over full game, which I think is more of a coin flip. But I think Dallas comes out throwing, and I like that number. 58.5 feels fine for me.
Yeah, I don't know if there is like a longest, like a quarter or half longest pass.
That's what I was
play.
looking for.
Yeah, like I think you can maybe play that live if you're taking it like a third or fourth quarter or second half type thing. I'm not sure you're going to be able to pull that off otherwise. I do like the McBride angles. 2 games with Brissett, 24 targets, 18 catches, 146 yards, and 3 touchdowns. He only had 3 touchdowns since the start of last season until these 2 games with Brissett. So maybe I'm overthinking it going with Harrison. I'm playing the matchup and receivers, but he's kind of their receiver. So maybe he's the receiver one who should just get the touchdown.
Agreed. The 2 other notes I thought were interesting. Dak right now plus 100 to win comeback player of the year. So he is the favorite to win comeback player of the year entering this game. CMC right behind him at plus 155. And including this game against Dallas, Arizona does have the toughest remaining strength of schedule when looking at win percentage, 57.4%. So a win here would go a long way, but tough sledding going forward for Arizona. Anything else?
No, let's do hot read.
All right. If you want to tell some of these Monday Night Football bets, though, make sure to look for the QuickSlip link in the podcast and video description, or go to actionnetwork.com/betnow, BETNOW. You can also find those QuickSlip links in the live YouTube chat if you're still hanging out with us. I will say actionnetwork.com/betnow. Super simple. They've got all the bets we have listed out there, right to a QuickSlip link to your sportsbook. All right, Brandon, hot read time. I believe, now, quote me if I'm wrong, since start of 2023, 50, 32, 61%. Not too shabby. What are you looking at?
Yeah, we finally got another 2-0 week, only our second one of the year. And we went with the Seattle, easy one to end the night with. And then we had Texans under. So let's go right back to the well. Texans, Jaguars, under 39.5 at DraftKings, just minus 110. Already dropping at some books, so I want to grab that one right away. Just going to keep riding the Texans under train. Not only is their defense great, but their offense is bad, and now Stroud is hurt. So maybe Stroud ends up missing the game in concussion protocol. You never know how quickly guys come out of that. Obviously, if we get Davis Mills here, I'm going to like that for this play. Already, this total is 41.5 this morning. It's down 2 points. I think that's counting in the Stroud injury question mark. It's 39, 38.5 some books. Look, Jacksonville's offense just came out of the bye week. And I know the fourth quarter and overtime count, but they did not look good through 3 quarters against the Raiders. They looked bad against the Raiders. So this is not great. Travis Hunter is out. Brian Thomas Jr. is injured. We don't know if he's going to play. They're not going to be able to pass at all against the Houston defense that's been incredible against the pass. And then Jacksonville's run defense has been really good. So if it is Davis Mills, it's all on Davis Mills to be the offense in this game. I just don't see that going well for either team. Last 7 games in this division rivalry, 35.3 points a game. So we're getting some ugly ones here. All but one of those 45 or below. We need 39 or below, but we've had a 34, a 27, and we've had a 19 in this series. And we know we're going under with Texans, 6-2 to the under this season. They had the one Baltimore game, 54 points. Otherwise, they're averaging on the season 33.6 points a game. Both teams in Texans games. We've already had 5 games below this number and a 41. So nearly 6 games below this number. Jacksonville's had a 42, a 36, 32, 30, or 27. And yeah, it was 9-6 against the Raiders coming out of the bye week in this one until it went crazy late. So if you want to wait here, I will say Jacksonville is 6-2 to the first half under. So if you're afraid about that late Jacksonville explosion, maybe you want just the first half under. I don't mind that, but the total's dropping already. I don't think you want to wait around. Once you get below 40, every point's going to matter, especially indoors here. So I'm going to grab it now, under 39.5, Houston and Jacksonville. What do you think?
I like it. I don't know how you take overs with Jacksonville at this point. And I feel like the spread in the game is a little light as well. Like if Thomas's injury does keep him limited, 1.5 for Houston, who feels like they're getting healthier, I believe. I didn't look at the injury report today, but I would think that's a little light. I might even look at Houston and the under in that situation, but I agree with you.
Yeah, I mean, I actually had circled. The reason I came to this game is I wanted a Texans play, but I can't bet the Texans without Stroud. Like Davis Mills as a favorite in any NFL game, I may have to sit that one out. But I agree, my number is still like Houston there. I looked at just Houston money line. I'd rather just play the under now. And, if it is Stroud, I probably would not mind coming back on the Texans play as well. For my other hot read today, going with two teams from games that only you talked about at the very end of our rundown today. Rams, Niners. Give me the Rams, -3 on the road in San Fran. Look, I would love a -2.5, but I don't think it's coming, and I don't think we're going to wait around for it. These teams are going in opposite directions right now. You mentioned Michael Williams, the best defensive lineman left on the Niners. He's gone. Nick Bosa's gone. Fred Warner's gone. They're missing like 5 other starters. This is my number 32 defense. Like with a bullet, they're getting worse now. And I think the Niners are kind of like a worse version of Dallas. They're an awful defense with a good offense that's not even a great offense like Dallas's can be at times. They're not good on special teams. Normally that'd be an area that you would have on the Rams. The Rams went better there despite Cardi's kicking like you mentioned. And I had the same note you did. Suddenly Brock Purdy is not even close to coming back or whatever that means as well. So maybe that's coach speak, but I got to take it as it is. I think the Rams have a case as the best team in football. We started with the Seahawks at the beginning of our show. I think the Rams have as good a case as anybody. They entered the weekend top quarter of the league, offense and defense, running and passing by DVOA, and then they coasted in this game. We bet Rams to lead at the end of every quarter. It's like the easiest bet I've had all season long, granted against the Saints, but the way that the 49ers are playing right now, I know they won comfortably today, but I'm not sure they're closer to the Saints than the Rams. Let's put it that way. And what are the Niners better at? They're better at having McCaffrey and Kittle, and that's it. Like, no other position is better. They're not better on any particular unit. They're not better on special teams. And you used to be able to argue in this matchup, well, they got Shanahan, though. You always take Shanahan against McVay. That was a tried and true thing until 10-3 ATS Shanahan starting out in his career against McVay. Then McVay covered 4 in a row till that weird Thursday night game that we had like a month ago when the Rams lost in LA to like all the 49ers backups. However, that game, I think, is going to make sure the Rams have their head on straight and are focused for this one, that they got to get back for this embarrassing loss they just had. The Niners have only topped 21 points all season. That was against the Giants today, the Saints earlier, and then that Rams game. So I don't think the Niners are going to find many points here against a pretty good defense. You mentioned Matt Stafford down to 5-1 MVP. He's looking really good with Puka and Adams. The Rams are rolling. And if you're worried about the -3, I don't think you should be. Since the start of last season, the Rams have 17 wins. Against a -3 spread, they would be 15-1-1 in those games. They don't win tiny, close games. That's not McVay. He doesn't pull those out. They lose those games. If they're going to win, they're probably going to win comfortably. And remember, we keep playing alts against the Niners because when they lose by double digits. So don't be surprised if we come back with a few alts later in the week as well. But for right now, closing out today, Rams -3 at San Francisco. Take the team head in the right direction.
Scared to death every time with McVay against Shanahan. But yeah, I mean, these two rosters have never been more opposite than they are here. And there's no way they don't have their head on straight after just completely blowing that game earlier this season. So that is a decent angle there. All right, that'll do it here on the Action Hour podcast for our NFL Week 9 recap episode presented by DraftKings. Give us a like on the YouTube video before you take off. We really appreciate it. Go to actionhour.com/pro. Use the promo code POD20 for $20 off a year of Action Pro. If you haven't yet, Check out our new AI quick slip bot on X. Just tag Playbook at Playbook and tell it to grab whatever bets you're looking for, and it'll create a quick slip link for you in a matter of seconds. We will be back for Action Island before Monday night's game right here on Action Network's YouTube page, as well as more NFL best bets from Brandon, the six pack from Raybound and Stuckey, anytime touchdowns, and more on the podcast feed next week. Thank you for listening, and good luck with all your action.